Hi, my name is Rodrigo Leon, and I welcome you to Scharffen Berger Chocolate Maker case study analysis. First of all, I want to give a brief overview around the most important facts as a summary around the background, the positioning, the operating and distribution model of the company. Then, we will move to an analysis in which we will explore the different challenges the company is facing, as well as go deep and understand each of the process constraints in order to come up with some key insights that will help us define an action plan. At the end, we will propose some recommendations and alternatives phased out in timing to address some of the immediate problems in the short term, also try to tackle and pave the way for the midterm, and then incorporate some other elements to try to help them in the long term. Let's start with the summary. As part of the background, the company was founded in 1996 by Dr. Robert Steinberg and John Scharffen Berger with a mission to produce the highest quality chocolate from the finest beans available. They are very well known for its unique artisanal and created production techniques, which gave them very rapid growth, starting from a very small operation to a recognized premium brand. In terms of their positioning, they are very well recognized as America's first craft chocolate maker. They pioneered the from bean to bar approach in the US, ensuring superb quality at every step. They are known for their artisanal confection and complex flavor profiles, building their legacy as America's finest dark chocolate. Their range includes unsweetened, bittersweet, and semi-sweet and milk chocolates. The darkest unsweetened account for 20% of their sales, and the other more sweeter products to the 80%. They have unique offerings like Nibby bars and custom blends for key clients, like Trader Joe's, which accounts for 20% of their sales. They are considered high-end within the 1.2 billion premium segment and with a reputation of being famous among chocoholics worldwide. Let's see to the operating and distribution model. They do direct relationships with cacao farmers, ensuring high standards. They perform quality-driven processes from bean to bar, which includes control, but also testing on every process. They account for their artisanal methods powered by specialized traditional equipment. Their production portfolio includes 80 products which go from the more raw chocolate type into derivatives and sizes. They do customized processes for a specialty blend like the Trader Joe's. As part of their distribution channels, they do business to business to more than 4,000 outlets, mainly large and gourmet, and some other smaller stores in urban and upscale zones in the States. They also perform business to consumer through their own retail stores, those other groceries, and e-commerce sales through their own website. Let's go to the analysis. Let's start by understanding what are the key challenges to tackle. We know demand is outstripping supply and it's projected to triple out in the next few years. Also, strategic projects on the door that will increase our market share are on hold. A main customer from the mass market are proposing a project that on its own can lead us to a 30% increase by the end of the year. Also, the issues around expanding capacity without compromising quality. The immediate production constraints plus others unfolding. How much demand to accept aiming to fulfillment? And of course, that's a ticking bomb for diminished customer perception over time. Last but not least, financial health sensitivity to working capital effects driven by decision making. So we have to be careful with the timing. Let's understand the process and its parameters. The production process is composed by 8 steps. The bean cleaner, the roaster, the winnover, the melangur, which is the mixer, 2 conches, the tempering, and the molding. Let's first define these process parameters. Each step receives an input. The materials are then transferred and produce an output. That occurs, of course, in a cycle time. And with certain efficiency. It's known that not all the processes have 100% efficiency. That means that materials or kilograms could be less at the output of each of them. That, of course, can happen multiple times depending on the batch size in a number of cycles, until all the processes together produce a system throughput. Of course, the intention is to fulfill all the demand, and we will be limited, if that's the case, by the available capacity. So let's explore our current state at 40,000 kilograms, which is our max throughput capacity. We know the cycle capacity for each of the processes stated by the case. And with that, we can calculate the number of cycles required to process the given amount of kilograms in the system. Here we can see the scenario in which we are right now, in which we are producing near to 29 conches and near 40,000 kilograms. With that, we also have the cycle times for each of the processes, and we can calculate the total time utilized for each of them. We also know the operating shifts, and with that we can calculate the monthly available capacity, and we know the process units or machinery, equipment that is installed for each of them. And with that we can also know and calculate the total time capacity available. With those factors, and taking into account the efficiency for each of the processes, we can estimate the output for each of them and the output of the system as a whole. Of course, we can now also calculate a rate of utilization in terms of the utilized time and the total available time. This indicator will help us to navigate and know what's the state for each of the stages in the process. So what are the first bottlenecks to be encountered? So as we see, we now find the conch and the roaster to be maxed out on their utilization. But of course, what concerns us the most is the conch, which is already operating at 3 operating shifts. So how will this change with the installation of the ball mill? Well, with the ball mill, we see that we can alleviate the utilization, now normalizing the process. However, we can ask, well, what happens with the roaster? Well, with the roaster, we still have the chance to increase operating shifts, which can be the strategy utilized until now. You can also add to the question, well, we can also consider something for the melon as it is operating near the 90%. So let's take these 2 selective shift adjustments and see what happens. Where do these selective shift adjustments take us? Well, they take us to near 50 conches as the output. At this point in time, what we see is that we have constraints all over the processes, and some of them in more critical condition. So we could ask ourselves what capacity could be achieved if we maximize the strategy of the working shifts. Well, let's try this and max out all the working shifts for the whole process. And we see that we can get, and where we can get with those. Will this be enough for the short-term demand growth? Well, let's try for some of the scenarios that wanted to be addressed in the case. 75% increase, and that could take us to 70K kilograms. Will this be enough? Well, it happens that we can get to that 50 conch threshold, and we will encounter now a new bottleneck, which is the melon. At this point in time, the discussion is very relevant around the new melon, because if we do not add the melon, then the system is constrained. So let's see what happens with the melon. The good news is that we already located one that can be refurbished and purchased, and mainly practically installed maybe in a short term. So what would be the benefits from the second melon? Well, let's see. Adding the second melon greatly expands capacity again and normalizes the system utilization rate. So it's a great goal. That could help us to surpass the 50 conches threshold. Is melon, that second melon, a profitable investment? Well, let's see. We could question or ask ourselves, we need to be very financial conscious around the decisions we make. However, given the payoff the melon gives to the system, we can greatly see that in terms of the contribution margin, which is accounted for 40 for each of the melon, we obtain a break-even to conches of 4. So that sounds reasonable in terms of the payoff that we obtain from the second melon. So at this point in time, we should ask us, well, could we double our current volume with this second melon and ask for a capacity increase of 100%? That will take us to 80K kilograms. Let's see. If we do that, we can go up to 57 conches, and still the system seems normalized. How far in volume could we get with this second melon? Well, let's see. Let's try it now with 150% increase. That means asking for the system throughput of 100K kilograms. At that point in time, we will be producing 70 conches as output, and guess what? Now we are finding constraints again all over the system, with the main difference that we are now already operating at 3 shifts for each of them. What can we do now? Well, you could also ask again, let's see the process units, let's be more aggressive in terms of investing in more machines. Well, yes, that could be the case in some of the processes. However, we already know that specifically for the molding, it would be a non-viable option. It's very expensive and it's costly enough not to go for it. So, will it make sense to continue expanding other process capacities if this is the case? Well, we could address and focus our efforts on the roaster and the other processes and invest invest on additional machines to expand further the capacity, leaving behind the tempering and molding processes by design. If that's the case, we would be needing some additional strategies to get rid of those processes. I've mentioned in the case, maybe it's the time to see the strategy and initiatives with the co-packers and delegate and transfer some of our volumes to them. Given that condition, if we happen to do that and increase the process units, then we could get to the 100K threshold. And what if we manage to transfer volume, excess volume to co-packers and analyze the system with that? Well, if we try to max out the system again, we could get now to 100 conches as output in the system and almost reach 140K kilograms, which would be something around 250%. So now with that, we see that there is indeed a route moving forward, at least for some period of time, and we are able to manage some incremental volume for some time. At this point, we have again the melangur and the conches as primary constraints, which are already working and operating shifts. So we may ask ourselves, so we are back to square one? Well, can this continue over and over? We may ask ourselves and analyze additional challenges that we will be facing at this point in time. Limited space in facilities. So what about the headcount growth and resulting ancillary spaces to be considered? What about the additional specialized equipment for other processes which will add uncertainty to quality assurance? What about the partial process outsourcing to manage volume growth initiatives, diverting our focus from beam to guard, which is our core? What about the reactive approach we have been taking to balance supply against expected market growth, diluting process scale efficiencies? What about start planning and evaluating a new facility, a new location? So what did we learn through the analysis? The pooling enables short-term 30% volume for end of the year, so we must go for it. Increased to 3 shifts across system is required to allow for a 75% volume growth. The melangur number 2 is absolutely necessary for a capacity over that 75% growth, which may already exceed its costs. At volumes over 150%, molding becomes a constraint. Incremental machinery is prohibitively expensive. Although roster number 2 will be required, managing in itself volume for molding process outside the system, like the co-packer strategy, may enable up to 250% growth. So with that, we come out to the alternatives. So let's use this year-over-year projection, in which we can see the conscious throughput and managed capacity thresholds. So we start at 2005. With the ball mill running, we should take the mass market retailer project. We will assume a growing rate of 34%, which is twice the growing market, and also very similar to last year's. That takes us to 2006, where we should execute selective shift adjustments at the roaster and melangur in Q1 to enable capacity for year-end, which is the 50 conscious threshold. Also secure additional melangur purchase by Q3 and get it installed by Q4 to be in time to allow for incremental capacity. Search for additional roaster equipment for quality assurance. That would take a time. That leads us to 2007, when we will get to 66 conscious threshold. In Q1, activate +1 shifts in roaster, winnower, tempering, and molding. In Q2, secure additional roaster equipment purchase and get it installed by Q3 to enable next year volume over 70 conches. Start selective progressive migration to co-packers, starting with sweeter, non-specialty blend, or strategic customers like Trader Joe's. In Q1 2008, and going forward, we go over the 70 conches threshold, and at least 10 incremental conches should be transferred to co-packers every quarter in order to get to 2009. In Q2, near 100 conches threshold, conches and melangur will pop again as system constraints. So at this point in time, we have the 4-year action plan built on current context, premises, and ASIS processes. So where do we stand against the current challenges? Well, some of them were tackled, some of them were already executed, some of them are in question, and some of them still prevail. We planning for long-term may require additional considerations. Alignment with root mission and value proposition. Leverage on core competencies and brand positioning. Strengthen and protect product quality and legacy. Drive market share increase as our defined true north. Financially coherent, ensuring optimal working capital. With that, I want to address some complementary actions getting set up for the long term. 2006, evaluate use of process performance measurement technologies, leveraging data and analysis to optimize supply chain synchronization, sales and operations planning. We may not want to modify the process or get into it, but we can use the technology around it to maybe able to make smarter decision making. 2007, people and talent development efforts to ensure best-in-class third-party performance management. Co-packers quality assurance will become crucial. Evaluate new facility, geographically aligned to demand, brand legacy and customer experiences, probably in the East Coast. Refine mix for co-packing to balance profitability, selecting the highest price and contribution margin blends, smaller sizes to offset incremental transportation costs. Perform revenue management analysis to optimize current product offering, pyramid bottom up, starting with size. Supply chain segmentation. New facility for sweeter and specialty blend products maybe, which account to the 80% of the volume, and use the current site for core unsweetened dark products, which is our core bean-to-bar process. Expand the model. New facility emulating original one, maybe hybrid production, selective outsourcing, but focused on customer experience model. Leverage America's East Coast heritage, even in the buildings. And last but not least, we need to capitalize on the positive segment outlook. Our position as leaders and brand equity to explore capital efficient alternatives, such as debts and ventures, to finance that growth and facility expansion. Thank you for your attention.